Hi sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button and turn your notification so you are notified each time I upload. And please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I am saying a very big shout out to every one of you for the love, the support you all showing me here with. I am grateful, and you all are super sweet. So today we'll be talking something very important, and it's about a video an Indian woman made. And she was saying that white women or white people only care about black people when it comes to culture appropriation. And this really got a lot of people talking, and a lot of people actually came out to, ask her questions. Some canceled her, and the rest of it. And why is she mad, and why is she showing her anti-blackness? Because they did not let her culture appropriate. I mean, her friend, she was supposed to braid her hair, and the brother was okay with braiding her hair, which the brother is a Nigerian, but her friend asking her, why would you even want to get braids? Like you are a minority, or you are a person of color, and you understand how what black people are going through, especially culture appropriation and all that it is not okay for you to do it. I mean, she was really very clear with it, telling her you don't have to do it because it's culture appropriation. And she is mad. She ran to the internet to call people out. And you all already know that black people, they have always been very loud about culture appropriation. It's something they do not take lightly. I mean, they say it openly. And for her to come out to say that white people only care about black people, when they have been screaming this, they have been on top of this like all the time. It's not hidden. And this really shows how anti-black that woman is. I am going to roll this clip. We'll come back to talk about it. And I actually want to read all your comments. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. So straight up, let's get into this video.
I've said before that a lot of white people only care about racism and cultural appropriation when it concerns black people and literally no other race. And I have a story for y'all. I had this friend who's Nigerian who does like hair braiding for her living, like that's her job, and she was based in KL in Malaysia. And I was living in Singapore, but I was going up to KL for something, and I said, hey, I'm really interested in getting braids. Would you do my hair? And she said, yes, I will give you braids. And she sent me like a bunch of inspiration pictures and like price quotations and stuff. And so I was looking at these pictures one day when I was out with one of my friends who's American, and this girl was like, oh, what are you doing? And I said, I'm looking at like pictures for braids because like I have a friend who braids hair. And she goes, wow, I can't believe that as a minority you would be this ignorant. I can't believe that you being a minority and someone who faces prejudice would like culturally appropriate a whole other culture, blah blah blah. And I was like, what? So on the spot I text my friend who does braids, and I'm like, hey, have I offended you? Like, are you just being nice by saying you do my hair? Like, it's if this is cultural appropriation, please let me know, because I didn't think it was. And my friend was like, no, I've braided so many Indian women's hair, and like you guys have really thick hair, and it's like perfect to hold braids. And you can't see right now because I just washed my hair and it's also really short, but I have tight curls. If you see my other videos, like you can see my curls. So she's like, your hair is perfect for it. Where is this coming from? So I told my American friend, and I was like, look, my Nigerian friend doesn't think it's cultural appropriation, and she's black, and she's been doing this for years as a living. And this girl goes off, she's like, well, your friend is monetizing off of like, the years of like racism, blah blah blah. And like she's going off, right? She's going on a whole spiel about how like this is cultural appropriation and I'm a bad person for perpetuating it. Shortly after, this American girl and I stopped being friends because we had a lot of difference in views on a lot of different things. And I never got my hair braided because my friend actually got a job offer and moved quite suddenly to a different country. So like it never happened. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was scrolling through TikTok, and it's that people you may know, and it was this goddamn white girl. And you know what she's doing on TikTok? She was using that niqab filter and like, showing her eyes to like that Arabian Night song, which apparently is a trend now. And I'm like, bestie, how are you gonna go off on me for like half an hour for wanting to get braids in my hair? And you're literally using a niqab filter on TikTok. The niqab is a very special cultural aspect to like Arab women and like Muslim women. And I cannot imagine why this is a TikTok trend and why she would get on it. So clearly, like, she doesn't care if it's culturally appropriating other cultures. I can't imagine why this is a trend. Like, this is not normal, and this should not be a trend on TikTok. I actually sent like one of the videos I saw a few days ago to my best friend who's a Muslim, and I was like, dude, this is fucked up, right? Like, I'm not the only one who feels this way. And she's like, no, it is really messed up. And I'm like, okay, good. And you see this a lot. Like, white women will scream from the top of their lungs that you cannot get braids because it's cultural appropriation, while also having an Om tattoo. Like, I'm sorry. I did not know that your ancestors from Tallahassee speak freaking Sanskrit. And don't even get me started on dreadlocks. You think your blonde hair can hold dreads naturally? Like, you think that is something that naturally occurs in the wild? You should not be saying finna. You should not be using AAVE. Okay, fair. But why are you doing yoga? Why are you doing like downward dog when that is not like it is? Do you realize that like yoga comes from India? You do know that, right? It's like if one thing is cultural appropriation and no one can enjoy that aside from like people of that culture, then every other thing also has to be cultural appropriation. At which point, like, where do you draw the line? It is so bizarre to me that like so many white people will like go to the world's end to defend a black person, which is great, and you should be doing that. But then like you literally ignore every other race and culture on the planet, and like literally nothing else is cultural appropriation to you. I have never blocked someone so hard, because if that girl from my story, that American girl, like if I swear I wanted to scream at her. I was like, there's no way. Like, you literally traumatized me, and I thought that I was a bad person. All for you to come on here and use a niqab filter. What is wrong with you? Also, her eyes are brown and she had contacts on, so she was literally faking in the trend as well. Like, literally, a lot of white people only care about racism and cultural appropriation when it concerns black.
Her entire argument is flawed as fuck. Because it's not a battle between which race can deal with more racism or which race can, deal with more cultural appropriation. No. Because at the end of the day, black people in this country goes through a lot more discrimination than any other race group. This is why a lot of black people lately been saying, don't say black people or people of color. Just say that we're black. Because of the simple fact that a lot of POCs, people will literally throw us under the bus or literally talk down on us just to cater to the white people or to the white audience. It's insane. Before you come on online trying to bash black people, go and look at the history.
I said before that a lot of white people only care about racism and cultural appropriation when it concerns black people and literally no other race.
They turned off their stitches, duets, and the ability to save the video. So if you want to go watch the video in entirety, I'll link it below. The way that she framed her argument was purposeful and insidious, because this conversation has to deal with white people and their ability to cultural appropriate to the point that the culture that they are appropriating becomes so watered down that you can't recognize where it came from before, such as what they did with yoga, like you were talking about. But instead of talking about that issue and directing that animosity, that clear animosity that I so feel at white people, you bring black folks into this conversation. And if we are being honest, because I see through the bullshit that you're doing, you're talking about black Americans. You are inviting anti-blackness into the comments, and specifically anti-blackness against black Americans, because you know that that is the most socially acceptable form of anti-blackness. Because what do black people have to do with this conversation? Black Americans are the loudest about protecting and gatekeeping their culture. If you have an issue, you should say it. That white girl was aware that you doing box braids was an issue because black folks here told her. Yeah. And in the same way that you all expect Americans to be aware of the intricacies of your societies, you all should be that aware of the intricacies of ours as well, and the histories. Because if you were educated, you would understand the rich and deep history that black Americans have with their hair. You would understand that to this day, black Americans are actively discriminated against based off of their hair, that they are treated differently based off of what type of hairstyle that they are wearing. You would then understand that if you are under attack based off of something that is part of your cultural identity, and then these people come in, take that aspect, and are somehow praised and somehow rewarded And meanwhile, you're getting fired from jobs, kicked out of schools? Yeah, you would be upset. There is obviously some underlying animosity towards Black Americans in your heart, and I want you to go and seek help, because this video was unnecessary. You could have talked about that white girl by herself. You did not have to bring up Black folks into this conversation.
I said before that a lot of white people only care about racism and cultural appropriation when it concerns Black people.
So I've been on this app for a while, right? 3 years, okay? And something that I see time and time again happen when someone tries to come on here and try to share their grievances towards a group that has less privilege than them, they fail to realize that when they do that, it signals to everybody else on that person's same societal level and upwards that it is okay to attack the person who is at the very bottom. So you coming on here criticizing Black people as a whole when you don't even belong to the Black community, you have more privilege than Black people, you're giving people the green light to openly express their racism and specifically their anti-Blackness. You could have just said, oh, I wish people took cultural appropriation more seriously when it came to my culture. You could have had a whole conversation about that, but you chose to take it in a very anti-Black direction. So I see that you're confused in the comment section as to why people are attacking you. So maybe this will help you feel a little less lost.
I've said before that a lot of white people only care about racism and cultural appropriation when it concerns Black people and literally no other race. And I have a story for y'all. I had this friend who's Nigerian who does like hair braiding for her living, like that's her job, and she was based in KL in Malaysia. And I was living in Singapore, but I was going up to KL for something, and I said, hey, I'm really interested in getting braids. Would you do my hair? And she said, yes, I will give you braids. And she sent me like a bunch of inspiration pictures and like price quotations and stuff. And so I was looking at these pictures one day when I was out with one of my friends who's American. And this girl was like, oh, what are you doing? And I said, I'm looking at like pictures for braids because like I have a friend who braids hair. And she goes, wow, I can't believe that as a minority, you would be this ignorant.
It's such a silly take. And I literally hate how this creator decided to try and mask it through the lens of like, oh, why is white people stepping in to care about racism when they don't care about racism from another group? All she's trying to do is mask what she really wants to say, which is why should she feel any type of way for trying to wear Black culture as a costume or an element of Black culture as a costume? Like she doesn't seem to want to be challenged in any sort of way on her wearing box braids, and she, in my opinion, she's using white people as a disguise, but really the real issue is she doesn't see why she should be called out for wearing box braids. This is honestly one of the most ignorant and uninformed takes that I've seen in a long while. But what is more worrying about this is the comments where people are taking this as an opportunity to drag Black Americans, specifically continental Africans, right? So one thing that I need you guys to understand is that just because something doesn't seem pressing to you on the continent does not mean that it has no relevance. I grew up in the UK in London, and I know exactly what it is to be discriminated against because of your race. Just because something doesn't personally affect you where you are does not mean that it's not important. This is not an opportunity for you to say that, oh, like, Africans don't care about cultural appropriation, we've got more important things to worry about. The only reason why this is not important to you is because you are in a majority Black country. But it will affect you if you decide to ever leave the country. People fighting for you to be able to go to your workplace in the West, go to, wherever you want without being harassed and discriminated is something that Black Americans and Black people in the West have been fighting for generations. You don't get to disrespect that because you're currently on the continent. Because when you leave the continent and you actually experience things outside of the continent, you have the laws and the things that have been put in place and fought for by Black Americans and other African descendants outside of the continent. You have them to thank. If you're ever going to go to the United States, you have Black Americans to thank for your opportunity to even leave the continent and go there. because of the fights that they have endured for 500 years. It makes no sense for you to be dragging them in the comments, especially tap dancing in the comments to a South Asian girl who is clearly discriminatory and racist. There's people in the comments literally saying like, oh, I don't know why black people's always complaining as if braids is only for their culture. You're trying to tell me your South Asian ancestors was out here rocking box braids. You're trying to tell me your South Asian ancestors was wearing cameras. Are you actually serious? You guys need to get a reality check, okay? Just because you think it's not important, it doesn't mean that it's not important. Just because you feel like you've got, quote unquote, more important things to think about, does not mean that it's not important. Because if you, your child, your grandchild, your relatives migrate to a Western country, you are going to benefit from what people who live in Western countries have fought for. That is the right to exist as a human being without being harassed. And what you're not going to do is literally drag black Americans for fighting for us to be able to wear our hair how we like without being discriminated against. And to the South Asian creator who made this video, why do you feel like you get to wear black culture as a costume? Why do you feel like you can just get up and be like, oh, I want box braids today? It makes no sense. It makes no sense, and it shows how entitled you feel to black culture. It is not your culture. It's not for your hair type. It makes no sense. Why do you want to do this? And why are you saying that, oh, because my Nigerian friend who did it for me is okay with it? I don't know if they grew up in Malaysia, but it doesn't seem like they have the nuance and the understanding to see why this is problematic. If you come from a majority black culture or country, you're not going to understand that. You may not be aware of how things play out outside of your home country. Just because she thinks it's okay to do braids for you does not mean that all black people need to be okay with it. It's nonsensical. It's absolutely nonsensical. And the fact that you would even come online and make this take and give people a platform to drag black Americans and black people who want to be able to fight to retain ability to wear our hairstyles without being discriminated against and ridiculed. It's literally a joke. And for you Africans, continental Africans that were in the comments, you should be ashamed of yourself. There's never a time where it's okay to drag other black people on account of somebody who's not even from your community. So the fact that you think it's okay to literally drag other black people and say that, oh, it's an American thing. No, it's not an American thing. It's a human rights thing. It's normal for people to want to be able to retain their culture, just like I'm sure this South Asian creator wants to be able to have the right to wear the clothes that she wants to wear. It's about the fact that we should be able to wear our hairstyles without people taking it and wearing it as a costume and pretending as if that is normal. Under no circumstances would it be normal for me to just get up one day and decide that, do you know what, today I just want to wear a sari. Like, I'm just going to wear a sari. Without context, it makes no sense. Just the fact that this creator is, making such a video just shows how anti-black this creator is and how much internalized anti-blackness some of these black people in the comments are. You guys need to get a grip. They need to wake up.
That a lot of white people only care about racism and cultural appropriation when it concerns black.
This video is wrong for so many reasons. If you want to talk about how normalized cultural appropriation is towards our community, just fucking talk about it. There is no reason to drag the black community into this. It feels insidious. Especially when we know there's such a deep anti-black sentiment within the Desi community. Also, from one fucking Desi person to the next, right? You can't wear fucking box braids. You'll live. The whole argument presented in that TikTok was counterproductive and also elusive to the point. Honestly, it gives the same energy as brown boys wanting to say the N-word. Your problem, at the core, is with white people. Don't drag black people into it.
I've said before that a lot of white people only care about racism and cultural appropriation when it concerns black people and literally no other race. And I have a story for y'all. I had this friend who's Nigerian who does like hair braiding for her living, like that's her job, and she was based in KL in Malaysia. And I was living in Singapore, but I was going up to KL for something, and I said, hey, I'm really interested in getting braids. Would you do my hair? And she said, yes, I will give you braids. And she sent me like a bunch of inspiration pictures and like price quotations and stuff. And so I was looking at these pictures one day when I was out with one of my friends who's American, and this girl was like, oh, what are you doing? And I said, I'm looking at like pictures for braids because like I have a friend who braids hair. And she goes, wow, I can't believe that as a minority you would be this ignorant.
At the end of the day, she's just upset that she wasn't able to culturally appropriate. She's upset that somebody called her out about wanting to get braids. Whatever kind they may have been must have been tied to black culture. And that's why she's dragging us into this about people only caring about appropriation when it comes to black people, when they do it often. And we have to keep having these discussions about our culture and having people tell us it's just hair. And that's really what she wanted to say. She really wanted to tell us it's just hair and she should be able to get her hair done like that. And she doesn't understand why people are making a big deal out of it. But instead she wants to say people don't care when it's done to other cultures, which is not true. I remember it was a while back where it was a white woman that I think did a lot of yoga and went to India and was culturally appropriating, and there were a ton of people on here calling her out. And then you know what we get? We get met by people that are a part of that culture that tell us, oh, well, I think it's fine. And we're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't speak on this because that's not our culture. But y'all can speak up about cultural appropriation, but to drag us into it because you want to wear braids, that's really wild.
TikTok works in mysterious ways because people leave like such awful comments under my videos, and like they literally tell me to kill myself, and I'm just making a video about like how to get into the JET program. And then, you know, I see videos of like people straight up just harshly hating on other people. Like it's not like, oh, I have an opinion. No, it's like really harsh, right? And TikTok is like, oh yeah, we're gonna leave that video up for millions of people to see. And then I make a video about how I can't open a bottle of fucking pesto, and TikTok is like, excuse me, that violates our community guidelines. And it doesn't even like tell me exactly why. It just says it violates the guidelines. And I don't even say anything in that video. Like I'm literally like, I tried everything, blah, blah, blah. And then I get it open and I'm like, oh, I'm glad I got it open. And that was it. Like I don't swear in that video or anything. So I'm not sure why TikTok decided that it violates community guidelines, because it's just a bottle of pesto.
It through the lens of like, oh, white people stepping in to care about racism when they don't care about racism from another group. All she's trying to do is mask what she really wants to say.
So this is all I got from the stitches. And number one is that, I mean, she talked about a Nigerian person saying it's okay for her to, make the braids and all that. Nigerians do not experience racism, and they don't understand what is going on in the Western world, especially when it comes to braids and all that. So, I mean, it shows how, should I say uneducated, maybe not uneducated, but like how unaware she is about what is going on, especially when it comes to culture appropriation and all that. I mean, Nigerians do not have anything to say. I mean, some even African countries are always okay. Yeah, they are wearing a braid. Yeah, it's okay and all that. I mean, but it's not all. A lot of people are already like, learned and understand how all this works. So if a particular people said, or a certain race said that this is cultural appropriation, we do not want you wearing it and all that, and you think it's okay to be anti-black, because what she's doing was she was trying to be anti-black, come out and pew her own hatred and all that and get away with it. But I am happy that people did not let her get away with it. I mean, if you all refuse to be loud about what is going on in your own community and talk about what you people want and what you people do not want, how do you want people to talk about it? I mean, if you all keep quiet about what you do, about cultural appropriation that is going on in your own community, I mean, whose fault is that? It is not black people's fault or anybody's fault. Black people have really been very loud. When it comes to cultural appropriation, they do not tolerate that. And this is something a lot of people know. White people also know that, and some other people too do know that. People of color know that they do not even take it easy or lightly when you culture appropriate. So they've been so loud and screaming about it. And do not come and blame anybody because, I mean, people are doing yoga and you all are not trying to, like, talk about it in your own community. How are we supposed to know? So because you did not get braids, right? I mean, your friend did not let you culture appropriate. That's why you came on here to like, to spew all this. I mean, it's really very funny how people wake up and think it's okay to write on black people's, I mean, maybe like what is going on in their community and use it as, it's always a case study and all that, and write on it. You stop talking to your friend because you people do not, because you feel like you do not have the same beliefs, or because she called you out on your bullshit and you think it is not okay. And she said, coming from my, like, as she's Indian, right? I think she probably, because in US, because her this thing says, I think Walmart, Kelly, something. So because her friend did not let her get the braids, I mean, talked her out of it. So for that reason, that friend is not a good. They do not have a lot of things in common and the rest of it. I love it. I love to see things like this. I love when black people actually, I trust them, when they actually come out and stand out and say, this is not what we want. This is, you are good. Even if she's your friend, I love the fact that she got the balls, like, to tell you that, man, you don't do this, even if you are my friend. I mean, a very big kudos to her. And yeah, so dragging black people or coming to show us your anti-blackness and all that because you did not culture appropriate, it shows the kind of person you are. I mean, this is where I am going to draw the curtain. Thank you so much for the support, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.